the Rings.
All right, we're talking Grimdark, boys. We're talking
Grimdark,
So,
not Lord of the Rings. Grimdark.
recently on John A. Douglas's stream, it was a topic. He had a bunch of authors, and they just discussed Grimdark in general. And I felt like that'd be a good thing for us to talk about too. I don't know. I know I jokingly said that John A. Douglas talked about it wrong, but you know, it's whatever. I kid. He's a little retarded. It's fine.
Well, do we start with a definition then?
I have one right here.
That is most of the topic is the definition, because that even off of online can be wrong, right? But yeah, what does online say?
Unrelated to anything, but there is a book called Grimdark. Grimdark. Anyway, moving on.
Right. So what's the definition?
Grimdark is a subgenre of speculative fiction with a tone, style, or setting that is particularly dystopian, amoral, and violent. The term is inspired by the tagline of the tabletop strategy game Warhammer 40,000. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Yeah.
So I got amoral right. That's it.
Would Cloverfield count as a grimdark because of how it ended?
No. It's like they said, it's more of a tone, a setting. So I mean, that's just New York City.
New York City is grimdark.
Yeah, but everything that could have gone wrong went wrong in that.
Yeah, but that's not. It's not. Yeah, it's not about where the story goes.
Wrangler, you can have a Greek tragedy that is not grimdark.
Grimdark. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to do with tone a lot.
40K is really where you have to think about where the definition comes from. It's like that world is infamous for being the one world that in fantasy or sci-fi that you would not want to touch with anything, right?
You would never want to live
near there. Everybody is miserable. Everybody is in the worst situation possible. It's just there's no way that you're not just the most miserable thing on earth, no matter who you are.
Martin gets kind of close to grimdark with The Song of Ice and Fire, but I still say no.
No, it is absolutely grimdark.
It is absolutely not grimdark. That was brought up.
You are absolutely wrong.
It's not grimdark.
I want it to be.
It's a darker fantasy world. It's not grimdark.
Pause. The standard way of referring to grimdark fantasies is that they turn their backs on the more uplifting, old-style story of fantasy. So, a grimdark style fantasy is a fantasy story that does not rely on the general heroic and uplifting tones of older fantasy.
Interesting.
I don't really.
Game of Thrones definitely agree.
Right. You're wrong even by that. Wait, you're wrong even by that definition. But even so, I don't even accept that definition. There is uplifting stuff like. First of all, there's a lot of hope when you're talking about Jon Snow's storyline.
The prophecy.
And the setting in general is not grimdark. It's not overran by the...
Almost everybody is out for themselves. It's not afraid of the darker aspects of the story.
Just the people that they focus on story-wise. It's not any more brutal than old medieval times.
Right.
Is it?
That's
the
thing.
In the official definition, there are three things that are brought up. Particular words. Dystopian, amoral, and violent. It is definitely amoral. It is definitely violent.
Definitely not amoral.
It's not quite dystopian either.
And that definition is not good enough.
Not quite.
Yeah.
It's just realistic. Yeah. That's the
Helen Young equates grimdark to gritty fantasy as exemplified by George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series.
Most of the casual people living in most of the cities lived fine, regular medieval style lifestyles. How is that grimdark?
The story is grimdark.
And the royalty loves.
Well, no. So we even talked about that with the definition of grimdark from the beginning. It's a tone or setting. I don't think the
tone is absolutely grimdark, though.
He does have a dark tone. He does have a dark tone.
He has dark. Yeah, it's not. It's darker. It's not grimdark.
Seems like just the definition of grimdark has become a topic unto itself now.
Everybody
that's why we're talking about it, yeah.
You will be challenged to find any number of people who believe that A Song of Ice and Fire is not grimdark. You're absolutely wrong on this.
I don't believe it's grimdark.
I personally don't either.
I think that's also because that's wait, don't cut me off. Don't come out. I think for the majority of people, I know we're all cutting each other off, but for the majority of people, that it's just this is like that's like the darkest story they've read. Especially with the amount of people that don't even really read fiction, they only read this because it was such a popular series in the first place. So I mean, like a lot of times it's like their second book they've ever read.
The royalty is like eating beautiful food like the entire time. They love their life. They're just like, oh, this is great. When there's not other characters dying.
Then, guys, then where do we draw the line? How dark?
Right.
Does
It has to be very dark.
Grimdark?
I think if it was the setting after the whites came through and it's like super winter, that would be more that would
Grimdark
probably fall under Grimdark. Yeah.
Grimdark is
The
fucked.
entire
Where the world is trying to kill you.
The entire A Song of Ice and Fire book series is basically saying that our good moral men are not enough to face the dark that we are facing. All the good moral men die in A Song of Ice and Fire.
But
that's
exist.
pretty grim.
They
Jon
also
Snow.
exist.
Jon Snow.
They also exist.
Yeah, read the last book. He's dead right now.
He's dead. Yeah.
Yeah, but he gets revived.
In the show.
In the
That
show,
has
not in the
nothing
book.
to do with the book.
He might never.
What,
get
you don't think
revived.
that's going to
Doesn't
happen
come
in
back
the
to life in the book?
He might never.
No,
get revived
he's
in the
dead
book.
in the books right now.
Yeah,
Wow.
and he might stay dead. In fact, it might
Wow.
get. It might get a step
Wow.
worse. It might get his body might get possessed by the fucking evil zombies or whatever.
All right, what about his younger brother, Bran?
Bran?
Gary Snow?
Yeah, he's the hero. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's literally like
there there's not many, and you're also just focusing on the certain people. It's like there's so many people within the universe. Like
Daenerys
Yeah,
is not
there are
really good at all.
many.
yeah, it's
But
hard right now.
all of the good people are becoming worse. All of the heroes are dying, and the bad people are winning.
But okay,
That's a pretty grim
even
situation.
if all the heroes become bad in the story, there's still plenty of people in that universe that are not evil and that are living decent lives.
And Daenerys, I would argue, is
Wrangler,
getting-
you're muted, bud.
Regular media.
So
Let
it
him-
sounds like most of Marvel's What If comics be where they go on an alternate course and usually everybody dies at the end.
Yeah.
I would argue that Daenerys, the show really ruined a lot of things for people's perspective on it, because they really didn't have much more than like footnotes to work from. But I would argue that she's becoming more good, and the entire point of her entire arc is going to be that she sets aside this selfish pursuit of the Iron Throne in order to become the hero of the story and basically fight the ice zombies with the only thing that's
Possibly,
able
but that at this point it's still just speculation. That's
It's
not
still
what's actually.
Yeah,
in
but
the
there's
story.
still hope in the story. There's still plenty of hope in the story.
It's there, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There,
And there's
yeah.
still people
Fine.
living.
Fine.
Like,
Well, it's not fantasy.
well,
but
Berserk would be an easy
Berserk.
one to say grimdark.
But there's
Even though,
still
like,
hope in that series, so I don't.
I know. I would even say even the technicality wouldn't be grimdark, but I don't think you'd find anyone who'd argue with you that.
Well, then let's take a pause.
Dark if it wasn't so absurdly funny.
What is a grimdark story then? Tell me.
I think it's a setting or tone. Of
No.
the world.
Point out. Give me examples
Yeah.
of ones that you think are grimdark. If A Song of Ice and Fire is
Warhammer
not
Berserk.
grimdark. Yeah, I don't even. Berserk doesn't even fully qualify for that either. So
For majority of the people in the world of Berserk are living absolutely horrid lives.
but there are people with hope, Bats.
Not
People
really.
out there living just fine.
No, not really. Not especially.
Oh, they're not being focused on in the story, but they're there.
No. Especially after
The second eclipse.
after where you're in, it's like completely hopeless. Like for like 99% of people, there is like one little camp of people that's super small, trying to expand, that like have hope, but it's like it is not looking good at all for them.
I think your definition.
I just don't want to spoil things for you. On Berserk.
I know. I think grimdark is. I think we're being too. Because we could always just break down these definitions further and further. Because then there's hope punk or hope.
Well,
Grim
I would
hope,
say
and
Berserk,
there's
the
all
Golden
that
Age is
nonsense.
not. The Golden Age is not grimdark.
Hope dark.
Right.
Yeah, no, those are subgenres. It's like it's the same thing, but where it's not totally bad. So it depends on where you draw the line. And if a story,
I really think A Song of Ice and Fire is not grimdark.
Well, okay.
Especially because it's literally just more of like a realistic interpretation of like how people were kind of assholes back in medieval days.
Yeah.
If I wanted to see a grimdark, I'd turn on the news.
Yeah, basically.
yeah.
So maybe
it's like,
something to it. Yeah.
Like it's got to be darker than real life. Like we've had emperors and
that's
stuff
funny.
like that in history that have did way more effed up things than they did in Game of Thrones.
I was just Googling, is A Song of Ice and Fire grimdark, but all I typed in was, is A Song of Ice and Fire the first result that it offers to finish it? Is it finished?
Oh, punk.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, the other thing. Well,
I have a thought here. I think Kahuna does make a good point that if we do lean into the most pragmatic definition of the term grimdark, it does very much narrow down the spectrum to the point where like a fair percentage of actual like marketed grimdark stories get cut out. Because my personal definition is like the world itself has to be completely against you. Everything has to be completely hopeless. But Kahuna's right in that like he made me realize that it'll narrow it down almost too much. So like we need to agree on some sort of like definition.
I think it's because a lot of
I
people
always
don't write
considered
grimdark.
it to be there is no possible good ending.
But there are plenty of grimdark stories we're just not talking about. Like a lot of sci-fi. Like what is it? I need to scream, but I have no mouth, or something like that.
Ooh, yeah.
Like we could even look at
That's
someone like
definitively grimdark.
we could talk about Joe Abercrombie. He's a contemporary of Martin's, and
I haven't read his stories, but
technically his team wins in the end of the story. Spoilers,
yeah.
but everybody is a piece of shit by the end.
It sounds like grimdark then.
How about the thing?
But it's not really that different from Martin's stories. And like even Googling it, it says Song of Ice and Fire series is another landmark work in grimdark fantasy genre.
Ooh, I got it.
That comes up
I
over and
deny
over again.
Any war movie.
I reject that.
Any war movie with a Pyrrhic vibe at the end of it, where it's like, who's the winner? There are no winners in war. Every single one of those war movies.
Yeah, because the setting could be extremely.
And if it's
like
1917.
that,
if we're going by that too, you could even say like that it's just an imitation of Greek tragedy. Because in Greek tragedy, all the people who are vile and evil make out, or at least don't get punished in the end. They don't see justice, and the good people who are altruistic and good most of the time are not given a good ending.
You know what
They're given some
a Greek tragedy is? It's Greek hope punk.
I like that.
How about Pan's Labyrinth?
I've never seen it, so I can't speak to it.
It's
I
actually
can't really
very
remember
bad.
well enough.
Oh, Pan's Labyrinth? Oh man, yeah, that's pretty brutal.
I will mention this, right? Like, I don't think my book is considered grimdark, but I'm going to sell it as grimdark. And I think A Song of Ice and Fire is right to sell it as grimdark because you're like, it's one of those things where it's like 99% of people don't understand what grimdark is because most people haven't heard of Warhammer.
Well, it also
like,
sounds like you disagree with most people about what grimdark is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do disagree with most people on it.
Because
I don't think most people know what the fuck they're talking about.
I try to be like pretty hyper, like because of my musical background, like subgenres. There's always like subgenre elitists. They're just like, oh, I'm not into blah 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 core. I'm more of like a post blah b blah 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 core person.
Oh, I've heard those people. It's freaking it's unreal.
Bro, go on. I'm listening. You got my ear. Keep going.
Yeah, because I've been exposed to that shit so much, I completely understand the nuance of being specific when you say grimdark. You mean something grim and dark, like there's no hope. It's completely grim and it's dark, which means it's pretty brutal or just dark in general, right? And you can take that to its most logical conclusion and basically discern the few grimdark books that exist, or you can do a more broad definition, like Kahuna was saying, where it's like, I don't know, like a tragic ending, where it's more of like the Greek perspective or something.
Well, I have a bunch of definitions given by really well-known authors of what they consider. Do you guys want to hear, or do you not care?
I'll hear it. Yeah.
Okay, Adam Roberts. The standard way of referring to fantasies that turn their backs on the more uplifting. Let's see the next one. Where'd it go? Cynical, delusioned, and ultra-violent.
What do we consider dark fantasy then? Because you acknowledge there's a difference between dark fantasy and grimdark.
Well, you can have like a hero's journey in a dark fantasy.
Yeah, you can.
Well, you can have a hero's journey in Grimdark too.
Not.
I guess maybe not.
Not
really.
without heavy
Yeah,
modification.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mod it and then give it a new buff. And
I mean, I guess the one problem with the Song of Ice and Fire is it's not done.
Grimdark is fantasy Grimdark is fantasy Protestantism. Characters have to choose between good and evil, and are just as lost as we are. Basically, the characters are left with no good choices.
That's pretty fair.
Nihilism plays a big part of it. Nihilism comes up in almost everybody's thing.
Yeah,
in the previous definition mentioned cynicism. I believe me and Bats were discerning the difference between nihilism and cynicism. I think we talked about that actually on this show back when Fallout came out, because Fallout Fallout is more cynical, whereas like, you know, something like I mean, if Warhammer wasn't so hilarious, it would be very nihilistic. It's
not every Warhammer story's like got a comedy aspect to it.
No, not every. Some do.
Yeah.
Many do not.
I think it's onto something there with like the words like cynicism and nihilism. Nihilism is very close. It's like no hope. You can have like you can. It's like
I would accept that Berserk, especially earlier portions, is grimdark. I would accept that. I would not say it's a nihilistic story. I think it depends. If I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to figure out these definitions, honestly.
Well, you get to a little bit farther than where you're at right now. It's like it's
spoilers.
Yeah. Well, big surprise. Yeah, that's what we're gonna say.
Gus doesn't have to suffer at all moments. Spoilers.
But I'll say, right? It's like, again, I'll always sell my book as grimdark, and I think most people should, because I think the average consumer, more than the average consumer, most of them are just not going to know, and it's the best way to prep them for the violence that's going to be in the book.
Well, basically, like for selling, yeah, you look at genres. Like, if you want someone to think of these books, then look at their subgenres, and then they'll think about those books when they're buying your book.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they're similar.
I feel like if people hear dark fantasy, like, it won't sell them right, because they'll be like, oh, there's a Dark Lord in it. All right.
And then there's a Dark Lord in Tolkien, which is actually not very dark. I mean,
it's not dark fantasy at all.
Not dark though.
But like I feel like if you said dark fantasy to majority of consumers, like that would be their definition, and that's why it's like, yeah, I think it's completely acceptable to be like, yeah, my story is grimdark because there's, you know, violence in it or whatever.
Okay, Herman P. Hunter has the perfect clarification to end this entire debate and argument. So, with nipples equals grimdark, and without, not grimdark.
So Rambo is grimdark.
A Song of Ice and Fire, grimdark.
The darkest nipples.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Guys, if we made a compilation of every time the word nipple has been said in this stream, how long would that video be?
Ooh, by the way, check this out.
I make that a drinking game.
Lovecraft.
We die.
Lovecraft, grimdark?
It's almost like Lovecraft is almost his own genre, but on average, yes, because if you look at Robert E. Howard, because you have to look at both of them when you look at one, and Lovecraft, they were contemporaries, they were friends. The difference was, if you encountered some cosmic monster in a Lovecraft story, the people would go insane. And or be transformed permanently for the worst. If they encountered that in a Howard story, man would rise up to fight the dark. So it's two different approaches to the same thing.
And I think with that, right, because it's like, well, obviously there's people that go nowhere near where the stories go in Lovecraftian stories. So it's like, why would that then, by my own definition, not be considered grimdark?
Is he Irish, Justin? Sorry.
I think the difference with the Song of Ice and Fire is that we do get a lot of glimpses and like stories of these people kind of living normalish lives,
being very
like non-grimdark lives.
Yeah.
Whereas in like the Lovecraftian stories are focused on that grimdark aspect of that moment essentially.
Yeah. Because he did the short story thing, so he just like jumped to the moment. You're like already following the dude when he's on his way to go do the expedition at the old ruins or whatever, you know, or with the tribe. It's sometimes
so. Bill saying, would it technically be dishonest to sell your book as grimdark if it doesn't fall under the definition of grimdark? Yeah, it technically is dishonest.
How do you handle this accusation, these allegations?
we all
But-
agree generally,
Yeah.
and look at how much we discern just from.
Frankly, Bill, I think it's a smear job. I don't think this is coming from a genuine.
Well, it's like I have to say like, hey, it's Grimdark, and like I always have the urge because I am an honest person. I always have the urge to be like, well, it's not technically Grimdark, but like, what the fuck is that going to do to sell a book? So yeah,
At that rate,
it's
you
just one of those
pay
things.
attention.
It's like
Yeah.
you're kind of forced to be dishonest in that situation because there's like
It's like pick a
Maji
subgenre.
Chen, that's a pretty harsh definition, but it's pretty funny too. My definition of Grimdark is more than 2 main characters live. It's not Grimdark.
based.
If it's Grimdark, but everybody's thin, is it Trimdark?
My soul hurts
Then
from that one, Justin.
Cloverfield would fall under her definition because
Cancel.
only one main character survived and barely.
yeah. What was that? What was their example? Sorry.
I
That's
said by Maji's definition, then Cloverfield would be a Grimdark because one side character survived. All the main characters went kaput.
I could see it. Because I mean, well,
I think I
When
think
there's
I
the
don't
movie
think
Life. It was
yeah.
Ryan Reynolds was in it for about 5 minutes before he kicked the bucket. It was they found
Yeah.
an alien out in space and they were trying to.
Was that Jake Gyllenhaal in that movie too?
I don't remember. I hated the end. I was like, that was kind of pointless.
Yeah.
Or like imagine
there was, the
Alien. Oh,
thing.
sorry. Imagine Alien if Ripley didn't make it at the end. How
Right.
much worse of a movie would that be if she
Be
didn't
awful.
handle that?
it depends. Hold on, it depends. It depends.
You can do it right, but
Schwarzenegger.
in that story, if she died, it would have all been
You-
pointless.
You need a good reason, yeah, because she was like set up, right? She was set up for us to like her, to be a badass. Like,
I mean, being on a spaceship with all those acid-blooded aliens, kind of grimdark.
It's
It's
the
pretty
first
good,
one,
but-
frankly, Bats. It's Alien. Use the proper pronoun for these
And
things.
you
Well,
think
aliens have
Wars-
the multiple ones.
The Descent.
Yes.
The Descent was a pretty grimdark horror.
That is a
because-
grimdark horror, and it's a
It
great
has a-
movie.
Yeah, it has a pretty
Oh, is that the one
freaky
with the
ending.
girls in the cave? And they're like,
yeah.
"No, don't go down there, Clark.
No, don't die.
Nor.
And then at the end, they're
that
like,
one?
Irma Gurr.
Oh my god! y'all have a Sprite?
You got a Sprite?
What?
Yeah, yeah.
What the hell
I
is wrong
need
with
some
us?
tomato sauce.
Tomatoes. You're on the Outback.
You mean ketchup tomato sauce?
Well, fuck, Herman, fuck.
God damn it. See,
Gothic
I mean-
space horror.
Yeah, but can't you say the exact same thing about
Warhammer?
Warhammer?
Pulled into this grimdark stuff.
100%. You could also
to
say
be
that
honest,
about Warhammer.
you can
You were
put
talking
anything
about
in
Irma
front of me.
Gerd.
You can put anything in front of me or like a subgenre elitist, and they could probably just
It's like,
think of
I
a
read-
different
Yeah.
subgenre that is. Yeah.
I read a Warhammer book, and this one girl about 1/3 his size flirted with a space marine once. Romance.
No, I felt like it'd be fun to talk about. You know,
I didn't think we were going to fight this much, especially
yeah.
after 300. Holy F. I can't believe AC agreed with you with something and disagreed with me. It doesn't happen.
I should have broken out the popcorn to watch you guys talk about this.
Yeah. If I could show my pirate flintlock on stream, I would, but just know it's near.
I got my sword. I ain't scared.
Is that a threat?
I saw 300. I would cut the bullet in half.
Yeah, I'm gonna unload it on my computer screen and all.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah.
what? What are you talking about, Justin?
My,
Cut it
my
in half.
pirate flintlock still.
Oh,
It's not
I
a
didn't hear that
metaphor.
part. I just heard I'm going to unload it all over my screen and keyboard.
I know what I'm labeling this this clip now. Acolyte is Grimdark.
Acolyte is
Deal with
Grimdark.
it.
Yes.
Didn't watch the whole thing get to the end.
Speaking of Grimdarks,
I need a baseball.
play
bat every time there's a
transition.
home
Play
run.
transition.
Oh, one second.
I can't find it.
I got. You just watched a clip from the Iron Seas podcast. Make sure to like this, subscribe, it helps us out a little bit, and please catch the show live at 9:30 Eastern every Tuesday.